You said something, and the moment it left your mouth, you knew. What you meant and what they heard aren't even close. And now you're sitting in those first 30 seconds after impact, and your brain is already building the case for why you didn't mean it that way. This is an Encore episode, and I wanted to bring it back because the move this episode is challenging is so automatic, so well-meaning, but so consistently makes things worse. What happens in those 30 seconds after you hurt someone matters more than most people realize. This episode is about why. Before we get into it, I've put a link in the show notes where you can submit topic requests for when new episodes return on August 31st. I'll be pulling from those for upcoming content, so I genuinely want to hear what's on your mind. And while you're there, I'd love to know if you'd be interested in a quarterly episode where my husband, John, joins me, sharing what he's learned from being married to a couples therapist and growing through this work alongside me. Let me know. Okay, let's get into it. You said something, and the moment it left your mouth, you knew. Maybe it landed too hard. Maybe it came out sideways. What you meant and what they heard aren't even close. Maybe you watched their face shift, and there it was, the unmistakable signal that something just broke. And now you're sitting inside the first 30 seconds after impact, and your brain is already building the case for why you didn't mean it that way. You're listening to Coupled With, the podcast that helps you take the guesswork out of feeling seen, heard, and valued in your relationship. If you've ever felt stuck in the same arguments, struggled to stay connected, or wondered how to better communicate with your partner, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Rachel Orlick, a couples therapist and coach, and together, we're going to make relationships make sense. Let's dive in. Welcome to Coupled With. Today we're talking about what happens in your nervous system the moment you realize you caused the hurt and what those first 30 seconds actually require from you. Here's what I mean. Most people do this. They start explaining immediately, almost before their partner is even finished reacting. There's already a sentence forming about context, clarification, and intent, and it makes complete sense that you do this. The explanation feels like it would help. It feels like it should shrink the hurt. It doesn't. What you're about to hear isn't about a better apology. It's about understanding why the move you've been making, the fast, well-meaning, completely logical move, keeps making things worse, and what it actually looks like to do something different. Here's the scene. You're in a conversation that wasn't supposed to go there. Maybe it started as a practical discussion, schedules, logistics, something that should have taken only 5 minutes. And then something shifted. A tone, a word, a pause that lasted one beat too long. And then you said the thing. You don't always know in the moment. Sometimes the signal is immediate. Their voice goes quiet, their jaw tightens. There's a stillness in them that wasn't there before. Sometimes it's more subtle. They keep talking, but something has left the conversation. The warmth has dropped. The door didn't close, but it's no longer all the way open. And now you're watching it happen in real time. What happens next is almost automatic. The explanation assembles itself. That's not what I meant. What I was trying to say was, you know I would never. The words are already there, already organized, already pointed directly at the source of the problem, which is the misunderstanding, the gap between your intention and their experience. You didn't mean to hurt them. Therefore, if you can just communicate what you actually meant, clearly, quickly, and with enough context, the hurt should go away. That is the part that is worth us slowing down. Because in that same moment, While you were building your explanation, your partner is having a completely different experience. Something in them just registered as not safe. Not safe to be open, not safe to be soft. The system that is always scanning for, am I okay here? Am I held here? Just got an answer it wasn't hoping for. And into that moment, into a nervous system that just contracted, you're sending more words. Let's look at what the explanation is actually doing, because it is genuinely not what you think it's doing. When you explain quickly, even kindly and accurately, here's the message your partner's nervous system receives. Your pain is a problem I need to solve. Your reaction is a misunderstanding I need to correct. What just happened to you is less important than what I meant. You didn't mean to send that message. The message is not in your words. It's in the sequence. Because what your partner needed in the 30 seconds after impact was not information. They needed contact. They needed you to stay in the moment with them instead of immediately reach for the exit. And the explanation, however gentle and true, is an exit. It redirects the conversation from their experience to your intention, from what happened to them to what is happening to you. There's a particular version of this that shows up in therapy sessions. A person is sharing something tender, a fear, a longing, something they've been holding for a while. And while they're still finding the words, they notice something shift in their partner's face. A blankness, a withdrawal behind their eyes. And when they name it, when they say, I can see you just disconnected, that makes it hard for me to keep going. What comes back is, that's not what I did. Which might be true. It might be accurate to what happened for you. But the conversation just moved from, I feel unsafe opening up to you, to let's debate whether that expression on my face means what you think it means. And the person who is vulnerable is now managing their partner's response to being called out. The original hurt is buried. And they've just learned, again, that opening up costs them something. The explanation doesn't close the gap. It actually widens it. Here's why this is so hard to stop doing. When your partner is hurt, when you can see it and the air in the room changes, your nervous system reads that as a threat. Not metaphorically, biologically. The thing that regulates whether you feel okay is, in part, how okay your partner seems. When they are distressed, and especially when their distress is directed at or caused by you, your own nervous system goes into some version of protection. For some people, protection looks like fighting. The explanation that comes out is a little too fast, too sharp, with a defensive edge you didn't mean. For others, it looks like over-explaining, a flood of context and intention and history, trying to account for every variable. And for others still, it looks like withdrawal, a flatness that reads to your partner as not caring, when what it is actually a system that has nowhere to go and shut the door. None of these responses are character flaws. They are all nervous systems doing exactly what they were trained to do. Protect the self when connection feels threatened. The problem is that the protection strategy sends a signal. To your partner's already activated system, a fast explanation says, I'm not going to be with you in this. It may not be what you mean, but that's how it lands. And underneath the explanation, underneath the drive to clarify and contextualize, is usually some version of this. If I can make them understand, then they won't hurt anymore. And then I won't have to feel the weight of what's causing this. The explanation isn't just for them. It's for you. And that's worth sitting with. What does it cost you to stay inside the moment after you've caused hurt, not to reach immediately for the exit, even for 30 seconds? That answer is different for everyone, but it's usually where the real work is. If you keep having the same fight with your partner, I don't think your problem is communication. I think there's a pattern underneath your relationship that's keeping both of you stuck, and most people never actually learn how to see it. That's why I created my free 7-day relationship challenge. Over 7 days, I'll walk you through why the cycle keeps repeating, what's actually driving it beneath the surface, and how to recognize it in your own relationship. You'll discover why you're probably not fighting each other. You're fighting two activated relational alarm systems. And this isn't just more information. Every day ends with one simple practice that takes just a couple of minutes. Because relationships don't change through insight alone. They change when you practice something different. By the end of the week, you'll understand your relationship in a completely different way. And once you see the cycle, you can't unsee it. If you're ready to stop having the same fight over and over again, join the free 7-day relationship challenge at the link in the show notes. So we've just established that your nervous system is doing something protective in that first moment, and that the protection is actually making the rupture worse, not better. That matters because what comes next looks very different depending on whether you know that or not. There is a version of the 30 seconds after you've caused hurt that looks like this. You pause, not dramatically and not with visible effort. You just don't go to explanation yet. You let the moment be what it is for a second longer, and you say something that acknowledges what just happened to them rather than accounting for what happened in you. That landed wrong. I'm sorry. I can see that hurt. I'm here. I didn't want to cause that. Can I just sit with you for a second before I explain anything? These aren't scripts. They're a direction. The direction is toward their experience first. Before the correction, before the clarification, and before the case for your intention, you have to move toward the person in front of you who just got hurt. This is the difference between accountability and self-protection. Self-protection in this proximity looks like care. It sounds like care. It has the vocabulary of repair, but the sequence gives it away. My explanation, then your pain. My intention, then your experience. Accountability looks different. It's slower. It tolerates the discomfort of having caused something without immediately rushing to resolve it. It trusts that staying present with their pain for 30 seconds is not an admission that you're a bad partner or a bad person. It is just being there. Before you explain, while it still hurts. Most people have never really been shown what that looks like. Not because they don't care, but because their own nervous system was never taught to tolerate causing someone hurt without immediately trying to fix it. Here's one thing I want to offer you. The next time you are in the 30 seconds after you caused hurt, and you will be because you are a human and this is a relationship, notice the explanation assembling itself. Notice it. You don't have to stop it immediately. Just notice it's there, and that it's moving fast, and that it's pointed at the misunderstanding rather than at the person. And then try this. Before the explanation, one sentence that lands on their side of the experience. Not, I'm sorry that you felt that way. That sentence does the thing sideways. It apologizes for their reaction rather than your impact. Something closer to, that hurt you. I can see that. Or even simpler, I'm sorry. Full stop. Not yet followed by, but what I meant was. Just that, for 30 seconds before you clarify. I really want you to hear that you are not giving up your right to explain. You are not agreeing that everything you said was wrong. You are not forfeiting the conversation. You are acknowledging that something happened to them and that what happened to them matters more right now than what you intended. The explanation can come after, when their system has had those 30 seconds to register that you're still there, that you're not defending, not retreating, and not redirecting. The explanation lands completely differently. It arrives in a nervous system that has already felt contact, not into one that is still waiting for it. This is not a trick. It is not a technique to deploy strategically. It is just the sequence that matches what repair actually requires. Presence before clarification. And it is genuinely hard to do when your own nervous system is activated, which is why it takes practice inside a real container. Not just hearing it once and hoping it sticks. Long-standing patterns rarely shift through insight alone. But the noticing? That is the beginning. The move most of us make after we've caused hurt is fast, kind, and completely understandable. We explain, clarify, we try to close the distance between what we meant and what landed. And it keeps not working. Not because we don't care, but because explanation arrives before presence. And the nervous system can't receive information when it's still waiting to feel safe. This isn't about blame. Not yours and not theirs. It is about a sequence. Your partner's system, the one that is always under the surface, running a quiet check of, am I held here? Am I safe here? Doesn't need the clarification first. It needs the contact first. The 30 seconds of you being with them and what happened before the first word of explanation. And it changes the entire architecture of what kind of repair becomes possible. You will not do this perfectly. You will start the explanation before you remember to pause. You will catch yourself halfway through a sentence and course correct. That is not failure. That is the wobble that happens when a new pattern is being built over a new one. The wobble is not a sign to give up. It is a sign the work is real. Imperfect presence is still presence. And presence, offered before clarification, is almost always enough to keep the door from closing all the way. If you're tired of having the same fight over and over again, don't just listen to this episode and move on. Take the next step. Join my free 7-day relationship challenge and start seeing the pattern underneath your relationship. Because once you see the cycle, you can't unsee it. Click the link in the show notes and start your free 7-day relationship challenge today. That's it for today's episode of Coupled With. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. And if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review. It really helps more than you know. And if you're curious about how we might work together or want more resources to strengthen your relationship, head over to my website, www.drrachelorlick.com. You'll find free tools, podcast extras, and ways to go deeper. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.